Hello, and welcome to Leadership Trail Mix. It's not a secret that I'm a big fan of musicals. So after watching Wicked the musical 3 times, Wicked Part 1 3 times, and Wicked for Good 2 times already, and having just watched The Wizard of Oz at the Sphere in Vegas, I think I'm ready to talk about the leadership lessons we can learn from the movies. And I found another fan of musicals to talk about Wicked with us. Sertrice Shipley is passionate about helping organizations use metrics to create data-driven workplace strategies that drive meaningful change. In addition to being the founder and CEO of Plan to Action, a Black woman-owned workplace culture and belonging consulting firm, she's the co-author of Inclusalytics, How Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Leaders Use Data to Drive Their Work. And on top of all of that, she's a big fan of Wicked. So I couldn't be more excited about today's conversation. Sertrice, thank you for being here and welcome to Leadership Trail Mix.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yes. So let's jump right in. Episode 18. I gave it the title The Wizard and I. Actually, no. The Window and I. But it was an homage to The Wizard and I. One of the many great songs from the Wicked score. That episode was about self-awareness through the lenses of the Johari window. And I think knowing oneself is the core message of Wicked for Good. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think knowing yourself was a very important message, but I would add another part of that too was minimizing the voices of others also, right? And figuring out what are my values, who am I, what's important to me, and being able to stand true in that, even if outside noise would maybe want you to do something different.
That's so powerful. You're absolutely right. And I think that leads very well into the next question, which starts with another quote from the musical, which is a moment when Elphaba says, "I don't want it. No, I can't want it anymore." She says that in a moment where she could have all she ever wanted, but doing so would go against her values. And I don't want to romanticize employment. I need to work to pay my bills. But so many times I come across people who are so unhappy, so miserable at work, but they don't seem to believe they have the right to move or to make a choice that is more aligned to what they are looking for. Do you agree? And if so, where do you think that stagnation at times comes from?
Yeah, I definitely think this is something that happens in the workplace and has been, a historical expectation that you will be loyal to this company. It's a gift that they've given you this opportunity, and now you need to stay here until you die. And the one thing I'll add, though, is I feel like nowadays that perception's changing a little bit. Employees are realizing, oh, wait, I spend most of my adult life in the workplace. I deserve to be somewhere where I feel valued, respected, seen, and heard. It aligns with my values. I feel like I have a purpose. And so we're seeing more of these purpose-driven employees. And I think that's really important and valuable and something that, again, we see tied back to Elphaba's messaging, right? No, I can't want it. I thought I wanted this, but now I realize it's not what I had in mind. And it's okay for me to change my mind and go somewhere where my values are more aligned.
That makes so much sense. I love what you just said about Elphaba's choice and the power of it. And it's so funny that it's like once you make up your mind, the river starts flowing, right? In the direction that it's supposed to.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think a big thing too, tied to all of this, is that there is more to life than making money. We need it, but it's not the only thing, right?
1,000%. 1,000%. And we can equate money to power or to being the wonderful Wizard of Oz or whatever it is. So thank you for that reminder. Yes. For the next question, we're going to switch gears a little bit. And there are a few moments in Wicked for Good that Elphaba makes decisions on someone else's behalf. The Tin Man and the Scarecrow are 2 examples of it. It reminds me of the many times companies dream dreams for their people without ever asking what they want. I would love to hear your thoughts on that. What is the impact of these assumptions to company culture? And I want to make a connection to something you said earlier, to all those voices telling you what you are supposed to want and do versus being able to silence them and listen to your own.
Yeah, I love this question so much because the movie Wicked is really interesting because we get to see Elphaba from this other side and see the good in her, right? And so when you see her take these actions for Tin Man and Scarecrow, you can see she means well. We even think, oh, this is a good thing. And I think that happens in the workplace, to your point, where companies or leaders will think, I'm making this decision and it's going to be helpful for that employee.
Mm,
And so there is positive intent behind it, right? But there's not conversation, and that puts a barrier in our ability to make those productive choices, right? We're now working on assumptions. Another thing that happens in the movie tied to this, and that we can tie to the workplace, is the urgency. It felt urgent, so she did those things immediately, right? Now, to be fair, again, no major spoilers, but maybe it was a little bit more urgent what was going on with Elphaba and why she made the. But in the workplace, it's not a life or death
that's
decision,
so
right?
true.
We can slow down to be able to speed up. If you slow down and talk to your employees and simply ask them, what's going on? How can I be better for you, right? How can I be a better leader? How can our policies be more helpful? Then you'll make better choices. And just one last thing to wrap that point up is that once she made those choices for them, she then had to figure out, okay, wait, maybe I need to undo this. How do I undo what I did?
That's true.
We see that happen in the workplace all the time, right? You make those choices, you don't consult them, and then you find out, oh, wait, this wasn't the best way forward. And now you have to work backwards. So again, if you just slow down and be a bit more intentional, involve their voice, you'll have a better outcome.
I think the lesson for me, I'm just listening to you and thinking,
Yeah.
life is not the Grimmery, right? You can
Yes.
reverse spells in real life.
Yes.
I love it. Let's talk about no good deed goes unpunished. And it's hard for me
Mm.
to say the sentence without wanting to sing it. A few years back, you shared a reflection about it on LinkedIn in front of your amazing Playbill wall, which I'm so jealous of. Can you share your thoughts about this song and its message with us?
Yeah, and I'm going to talk a little bit here. I'm going to try not to sing it at you, but I think this is the part of the song that sticks out for me, so bear with me. But she says, one question haunts and hurts too much to mention. Was I really seeking good or just seeking attention?
Mm,
And if that's all good deeds are when looked at with an ice cold eye, maybe that's the reason why no good deed goes unpunished. And that part stood out to me. And I've been thinking about this since, like you said, last year I made a post. I've been thinking about honestly for a couple of years now, because I love Wicked. But we see this so often when we talk about inclusion and equity,
yeah.
right? Because people will go and they attend a workshop, they read a book, or they, listen to a podcast like this one, and they decide, I know what's right and I know what's wrong. And if
Mm,
I see someone else make a mistake, we're just going to harp on it. We're going to call them out. We're going to cancel this person because they made one mistake. And this isn't to minimize the actions people take. We should hold people accountable. And there are times where things are extreme. But I think it's very easy to live in that space of judgment and assuming that we have this moral ground. But when we do that and we just are always looking for ways that people are messing up, they get to this breaking point. And that's that's that song in the film is her breaking point of,
that's right.
I have tried so much, but everything I've done is met with negativity. So you know what? I'm not trying anymore. I am wicked, right? She says, right, let all odds be agreed. I'm wicked through and through. And so that is what we are putting at risk when we are too hard. And so the key behind that song, that it just reminds me the importance of extending grace. Grace to ourselves and grace to others, that no one is perfect. We are all going to inadvertently hurt someone else around us, but it's how do we take ownership of that and improve moving forward, not the initial mistake on its own all the time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. There's so much
Yeah.
wisdom in what you just said. We're getting close to the end of our conversation. As you can imagine, I could be here for another 3 days talking Wicked and probably kind of discussing every single scene, every single line, every single detail. But I recently watched a TEDx talk with Paul Tazewell. He's the person who designed the outfits for Wicked. There is a quote from it that really stuck with me. It's a little bit long, but bear with me just for a second. He says, and here I quote, "I wasn't designing stereotypes. I was designing questions. Who decides who is worthy of respect and who is shunned? Who decides who is cherished and who is ostracized? Who decides who belongs and who is cast out? In truth, my job is about perception. I'm a storyteller. When I put a character in a shade of scarlet, or wrap them in velvet, or cut them in sharp black lines, I'm asking you to feel something about them instantly, silently. That's what fascinates me. How simple fabric can tell us who is a hero and who is wicked. At first glance, wicked isn't about a witch. It's about anyone who has ever been judged without speaking a word." End quote. That brings so many thoughts to my mind, but I want to start by hearing yours. What thoughts come to your mind when you listen to this quote?
Yeah, I think the last part is so powerful, right? Anyone who's ever been judged without speaking a word, because there are so many assumptions that we operate on and connotations behind things in society. And so we've been taught, right? Sometimes indirectly, sometimes directly, that light indicates good and darker things are bad, and so many other generalizations and stereotypes that lead us to these unconscious preferences.
Yeah.
And so by default, we make assumptions. And that's it ties to bias, and I teach things around unconscious bias and how we address it. And one of the things I always joke about is, people love a good workshop. Like I said, I lead these workshops, but they're not that helpful in combating bias. The most helpful thing for combating bias is exposure, right?
Um,
It's being in and around different things so that way you can learn, oh, wait, I am making an assumption, right? I was making assumptions, and this isn't really how this person is or how this group is in reality. Anyone can be any type of way. And so I love that he was able to play with that in the costuming. And we do assume the bright and fun things are positive. When you look, you may off the top of your head assume, okay, this is the Wicked Witch. She's in black. She's green. She's quote ugly, even though she's beautiful.
she
But
is
uh,
beautiful. Oh my gosh.
all these things we assume, and then you realize, oh wait, she's got a heart of gold. And once you get to know her, we
Um,
challenge those assumptions. So I thought it was really moving that he's trying to do that through costuming, and it's a good reminder for us to do that in our day-to-day actions and in the workplace with who we're, with our colleagues and our partners too.
I couldn't agree more.
What did you think? I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. First of all, I empathized and identified so much with him. But to your point, I found myself tapping a little bit into hopelessness, if you will,
Mm,
to really think, can we teach society that the wearing black is not supposed to be the clothing of the witch, and that the light, pinky, bubbly, fluffy, glittery is a symbol of good? It feels like some of these things are so ingrained in society that makes me kind of sick in my stomach, if I can be honest. But also believe that we all can make the difference in our micro worlds. So when I listened to that, I started thinking, what are the small things that I can do in the world that I have some influence over to make sure that a shade of scarlet or someone wrapped in velvet or sharp black lines do not make someone be tagged as something that maybe they were not. And I think what I would complement it is with something you said about curiosity, right? It's just being curious to ask, like, but what does life look like through your lenses? And I think I never made the connection between curiosity and exposure, because sometimes I think of curiosity as this very active thing. Like, you go and you ask, what do you mean? What do you like? What do you want? And exposure for me talks about mostly sometimes just being in the room and seeing others interact and learning from that.
Being present. It can be that simple. Yeah, I'll kind of wrap up with a bow what we've been talking about. And one thing that's so important is relationship building, right?
Uh,
And so, as a leader, it's so important to create space and time for meaningful dialogues on your team. And this is on two ends. One, get to know your team members for who they are, right? That ties in with the curiosity and exposure. They will show you how to best lead them better than any book, podcast, anything that you can just to talk to them. But then also create space to hear their ideas and input. That's going to be a win for them as individuals and for the organization because you'll gain valuable insights into in ideas into how you can improve things, but you also help them feel valued, respected, seen, and heard. So win-win for everybody.
1000% win-win. Sertrice, thank you so much for being part of Leadership Trail Mix. I said it was the last question. I always have a second one, which is how can people stay in touch with you and learn about what the things that you were doing, either personally or through
Yeah. So I have a LinkedIn that you can follow. If you search my first name, I come up on pretty much everything. So follow me on LinkedIn, or if you go to plantoactionllc.com, you can sign up for our newsletter too. And we send that out just once a month. We're not super annoying.
That's awesome. Thank you. And for those listening to us, thank you. Thank you for listening. Take care and talk soon.